that goes on. And though unfortunately it is being looked upon and efforts are being made to make it appear as a student struggle, it is not a student struggle. It is a struggle within the University for Justice. Okay. The struggle has been going on for the last nearly 10 days, and I have been observing the discipline, the self-control with which you people have been conducting yourself. Despite there has been very severe provocation from all directions and all levels. Secondly, you have also resisted attempts to politicize this and held yourself close. You see, you are operating within a larger scenario where lot of counter forces operate. And so to be able to maintain a certain minimum of unity is not an easy job. It's not an easy job, and you have been displaying this. Okay. Now, we had several speakers, and I would like to point out to you the freedom with which they were speaking. You see, this is very important. Whatever be the issue, they had a clear case of either it is illegal or it is unjust, it is a human rights. So they have come here to express. You see, particularly some of the students here and the APSLC and other speakers here. Now we claim that within institutions like this, we have come to be enlightened, to be empowered, and to be emancipated. But we see here how people are so constrained and so hesitant to speak out the truth. Here we are in a protected realm. This is a constitutionally instituted space, constitutionally protected space. It's an enabled public sphere where one need not fear anything. But on the other hand, we see there are so many things going around, whispers, expressions of solidarity, and then, affection, and then congratulations, support. But no one would come forward. Why? What are we afraid here? What are we afraid of? First of all, we are basically citizens of this state, and in addition to that, we have been empowered in a public sphere. So one did not sort of fear, in this context I must appreciate the pamphlet that went around here of the teachers thing. It's a great step. But still I would say it falls short of what I would expect from the public. So why don't they come forward with their names? Please come forward. Nobody, you will not be hanged. Probably you will be hanged. Probably. Because these institutions are not operating on its own. They are part and parcel of a larger society, which is rank casteist, communalist, fascist, and the state as the agent of all this. While we claim that we live in an emancipated space for ourselves, and going out of this we will emancipate the larger society, in fact, we find ourselves enslaved within these four walls, and we have less freedom and less space than outside. You see, a man walking outside will have much more space to discuss things that go on and to take action, to come forward, or even on a humanitarian basis to intervene and so on. But here, why are we so scared? All our education, all our learning, all our classroom discussions should enable us to liberate ourselves. Liberate ourselves. Is it? And I find the liberated group is sort of dwindling from ever since the day one the struggle started. It was smaller and smaller and smaller. And here we stand isolated as mainly and mostly and even primarily as students only. You guys come from outside, hoping to get enlightened, empowered and also emancipated. And so still you retain some of the larger society's freedom and space. Now I am sure you are learning how to become circumspect, how to be political, how to not to be open and how not to be frank, how not to be forthright and so on, so that you will be eligible for a career back within the same institution. I am not referring particularly to IFLU. I have been to several institutions. I have a general comment on the entire institutional life within the India itself. You see? But here we find it in a much constrained space, physical space as well as mental space. The basic problem I tell you is, we have abdicated in modernity the basic distinction from how we are and how we ought to be. We have abdicated this. Not only we have abdicated it in our academic and in bureaucratic and in media life and so on, but mostly in academics. Mostly in academics. The real is the rational. So what all we do is manipulate, fix, balance forces, adjust groups, etc. This is called academics. No. What happened to the ideals? What happened to the principles? Democracy, justice. All this will be discussed in a faraway place, in a foreign language, so that it doesn't come anywhere near us. IFLU is a modern institution. IFLU is a modern institution. It's a beautiful thing to study. How a modern institution with the stated ideals, how do we run it? We have very clear objectives and what is the actuality and what is the big gap between this and what it ought to be and what we hope it to be and what people pretend it to be, etc. And these things constantly come in, constantly come in. This is not the only occasion that we are gathered here to do this. I said we are in such a small place and we are the ones who are running it, but so many of us cannot, have a rational organization of our own mess life, for example. Simply can't. We can't. We will discuss the principles of governance and governmentality, but what about the IFLU mess governmentality? Would any classroom take this subject and then discuss it in relation to the Foucault's idea of governmentality and see how it applies or doesn't apply and so on? We make it sure that none of what we discuss comes anywhere near us. Anywhere or near us. You see, we are being told, and some of us are also beginning to believe, that we are losing classes and academic career is going on. I tell you, my friends, this last 8-9 days, what you have learned through intense thinking, debating, either for or against, will stand you till the very end of your life. Will stand you till the end of your life. And even for your career, it is this that will give you. It is in conflict situations, it is in critical circumstances, your brain is forced to think for and against and come up with wonderful number of solutions. You see, when we have seen the notices all over, these are all your ideas. No? Someone pointed out that there was some mistake in ideas. Sure, Mao long ago said, let 100 flowers bloom, 1,000 flowers bloom. You see? Only when you allow these ideas to bloom, then the stronger idea, the better idea will survive. We don't develop our economy and then say we are a stable economy. We don't make a distinction from stable and stagnant economy. The same way we said as a law and order harmony means people don't make any noise, everything takes place properly. That's not. It's a graveyard. It's a graveyard. University should be a vibrant space. And then I really do not understand why the administration should stand alone or separate or in distance. What is there something has gone wrong? We are not a perfect system. As we have suggested, this system is part and parcel of a larger world. And so the larger world constantly impinges upon this and then impinges in a much worse way than it is in the outside world. So we will always be ready to correct ourselves. You see? You know, that is a humanity and that is a human rights thing people are talking about. Now another thing I have noticed in this is people all here move about as though, you know, they are in groups and sections and so on. There has to be, see, the people, this is mainly a residential institute, and people come from all sorts of places of all kinds, and they have been handed over to this institution as a form, in a form of a trustees. The people here are trustees, not simply a kind of, you know, you drive education, you come and have education and go back. It's nothing to do. We are not bothered about any of your emotional, social, psychological problems and so on. I would like to see the senior faculties moving around, meeting people, going into their hostels and so on. That is the idea of a residential university. You don't see this anywhere, you know. I was suddenly told that the teacher population is nearly 100. Where are they all? Where are they all? I want to remind you, this is not only here. I have been wandering around various, the fringe of institutions everywhere. And I find everywhere this is the thing. Let us see, we have in the classroom, we have the idea that I am a teacher, you are a student. But outside we are all colleagues and comrades. You know, I tell you, this is what keeps the senior faculty younger. And that is why they want to be within the campuses. You see that, and that is good. That is good. They benefit by that. But they have to also share the responsibility. It's not a kind of, you know, kind of, you know, seclusion, kind of, you know, apartheid that between students and this and between administration and this and so on and so forth. I like people to come forward and think, let's say, okay, what is it? We have been responsible, and that has been accepted already. You know, the tragedy could have been averted if there had not been some mistakes committed. So what? So okay, who has to? And then there should be eagerness to say, no, I could have been responsible. I could have been responsible. So I like to own it as responsibility and please do something about it. You know, that is the humanity, human circumstances and so on. I tell you, on the concrete issue of how you are going to conduct the thing, I tell you it's a very difficult circumstances. Very difficult circumstances. And things will not last like this. And we, as I said, we are not we are not away from the larger society, so on. And law and order, police intervening, and so on. As my friend pointed out, in independent India, somebody has counted this. It's an internet information. More than 1,000 times, Indian Army has been called in to intervene in the domestic problems of this country. And then 12 or 13 times to defend the borders or something. Now, within such a larger scenario, why are you surprised that the moment something comes, immediately panicky, call the police? Is it? That simply shows the bankruptcy of our entire institution. I'm not saying all our institutions are like that. Very often we are unconsciously aware, many of us, including ourselves, the privileged students of a central university, we are sitting on illegitimate positions, illegitimate locations within the larger society. You see? We know. They have, the outsiders, the people outside, have every right to pounce on us and say, why this privilege only for you, small group, why not for all of us as a democracy? And this is an acute consciousness, and that is why the ruling classes in this country always have been under tenterhooks. So at the arm's length, they always have the access to this. This is a collective responsibility. We need not identify. Of course, the names have come up, who is responsible and all that. I don't pay much attention to names because these names are all interlinked to one another. Nothing happens without a basic collective responsibility. You see? So one man we should not make one man into a kind of thing. And if it has to be made one man's responsibility, it should come from that man himself or from the group itself. You see? But the system has failed, and the system should accept the responsibility, and they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it. You know, in all our ordinary life, we say that this is karma. One cannot escape. Karma is our religious belief. It's a religious belief. But when we want to do some karma and escape the effects of karma, I think this is not possible at all. It will somehow another boomerang and so on. With a very heavy heart, I sort of wish you all the best. I'll be around, and I hope my younger colleagues in the faculty and also in the non-teaching faculty will come forward. You see? Please give up your fear. Please give up your fear. Okay? You are in a protected space, and come and join in a spirit of reconciliation, in a spirit of peace, that students, and to a large extent, they have still remained universal and rational. Of course, that will be a minor thing and so on. But I have noticed students in any other circumstance extremely wild and extremely kind of thing and so on. So to that extent, this is a very good group. I think they need a lot of support and so on, and arrive at some kind of consensus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. This Aloysius sir's intervention has really taken us to a state from which we have, yesterday have been through. Really, yesterday evening, we are really in a state of dumb. Because 5 days of our struggle, very rigorous struggle, sleepless, without food, but very much confident, has been pushed into such a corner where could be good. From such a state, the intervention of Teachers Federation, we thank them once again. Our Professor Aloysius, it has enlightened much more, extended the solidarity that has come from Teachers Federation. I hope all the teachers, if not all the teachers, the younger teachers who have been extending their support in the most possible way, in a variety of forms, expressing their dissent in the teachers' union to coming forward with an open letter. It's a really welcome development in this university. But this is not sufficient. And as a federal committee, we really interacted, everybody personally, and also organizing protests, hall meetings, open discussions, and also through letters, representations, and so on. Now, this public meeting, which is organized by calling different public intellectuals from different forums, different organizations, has given us a great hope on us that we can carry this movement much forward. I, on behalf of Federal Committee, I thank one and all, and I would like to announce before you all of that we will carry this movement much further, and we will announce the program of our action through our pamphlet, through our poster by tomorrow afternoon. That what we will do to this university, what we will do to this atrocious administration. Vice Chancellor, you are going into the foreign tours, going into the offshore campuses. What do you do with this mother campus? This campus has turned into a graveyard. If you have ears to listen, if you have eyes to see, really if you are a human being in living form, here all the students have already resolved to say that you are all dead, and this administration is running on a dead horse. This administration is running on a wooden horse. So, since it is a wooden horse, we need to burn it down. We need to burn this entire administration down and construct a living organization, living administration. We construct a live horse which can carry it forward. Friends, this Vice Chancellor, this queerest Vice Chancellor, this immoral Vice Chancellor, this undemocratic Vice Chancellor needs to learn everything from the marginalized people over here. The people who have been marginalized centuries together and struggling to come into the universities and hardly entered into this university are pushed back to their respective places. Mudassir Kamran is one among the people who are pushed back to their respective places. When the administration is made an attempt to push him back to his respective place of Kashmir, which has been undergoing so much of harassment, so much of torture of the state. Hey, Vice Chancellor, Khabardar Vice Chancellor, I, on behalf of Struggle Committee, warning you, if you have dare to come before the students, come on Monday before the tent. Come on Monday before the tent. We will teach you the lessons which you never heard from your immoral teachers. I blame the teachers, those who taught you in this immorally, this undemocratically, the state which has given you such a great position of Vice Chancellor. But you don't deserve Vice Chancellor position. You don't deserve a teacher. You don't deserve even a human being to live in this university, on this earth as a human being. You are not a human. You are not a human at all. Here, I warn you once again, if at all, if you have a dare to face us tomorrow morning, on Monday morning, 10 o'clock, you come before and show your face. No need to have to, enter into the university. Just show your face if you have a shame to. If you have a shame to, show your face. We will tell you what can be done. Friends, we will announce our program of our action by tomorrow afternoon with our poster. But friends, you need not have to lose your hope at all. Till we get our justice, this movement will be carried. My dear friends, some of the champions of the Vice Chancellor, some of the teachers who haven't done anything in Chamsagiri in this university, who haven't done anything in this university, like aesthetics and philosophy department, Syed Saeed. Hey, Syed Saeed, you are not the representative of the Muslim community. You said the other day before the teachers union, the other day before the Vice Chancellor, that you are the only representative of the Muslim community. Do you mean to say that you are the representative of Mudassir Kamran? The shame upon you. Mudassir really feels shame upon that. You are a shameless idiot. You are a shameless idiot to live in this world anymore. Hey, Syed Saeed, Khabardar Syed Saeed, Khabardar Syed Saeed, Khabardar Syed Saeed. Aesthetics and Philosophy Department. Aesthetics and Philosophy Department is a research department. It's a research department. It's a research department. But there is no research in the department. There is no research in the department. According to the university norms, a professor needs to work for 16 hours. 16 hours. But our Syed Saeed is working in this university 24 hours. 24 hours. He is working in this university for 24 hours.
Student unity, long live! Long live! Long live!
He is working in this university for 24 hours to crush down the university system, if at all if it existed, to crush down the democratic struggles and establish a democratic state. Thank you one and all. We are winding it up by now. Tomorrow afternoon, we announce the program of our action that could be carried from Monday till we get our justice. Thank you.
Rahul Committee, long live!
Long live, long live!
Physical Chamda Sayyid, Murdabad!
Murdabad, Murdabad!
Teachers Front Unity, long live!
Long live, long live!
Teachers Front Student Unity, long live!
Long live!